The watch world's been spinning faster than a Daytona bezel. Chinese factories are flexing their knockoff skills, Rolex is lawyering up like it's Oscar season, and Swatch Group is sweating through its dress shirt. In 2016, Omega's CEO swore that everything, except straps and ruby bearings, was made in Switzerland, which is like saying a burger is 100% organic, except the bun and the meat. Turns out Swiss-made only needs 60% of the value to be Swiss. That other 40%, well, it might have had a layover in Shenzhen. Welcome back to Opulent Oasis. Today's episode isn't about what's on the wrist, it's about what's boiling behind the scenes. Rolex didn't take the clone flex lightly. They fired back with lawsuits faster than an AD can say, "No submariners today." It's not just about fakes, it's about guarding the myth. Meanwhile, over at Swatch HQ, things are wobbling. Profits are down, shares are in freefall, and one investor tried to crash the party with a board seat bid. Spoiler, the Hayek still run the show, and they're not handing over the crown anytime soon. Swiss-made or Swiss-faked? Swiss-made once meant precision. Now, it mostly means 60% of a watch was touched by Switzerland, while the other 40% quietly flew in from wherever labor's cheap and nobody asks questions. Things blew up when Chinese factories hit TikTok, claiming they could build luxury clones for pennies. Turns out they're not bluffing. The rules say 40% of the value can come from outside Switzerland, so Swiss-made isn't a promise. It's an accounting trick with a luxury stamp. China's more than capable too. Satellites, microchips, surgical bots, precision isn't the issue. Ironically, Switzerland built its rep by copying and improving until it became the one to copy. Omega stirred the pot when buyers saw China on bracelet orders. Totally allowed, just add enough Swiss polish and call it a day. It's like microwaving takeout in fancy cookware and calling it homemade. Suppliers have admitted it. Make the cheap stuff abroad, glam it up at home, and it clears the bar. When value is king, geography becomes optional. Affordable brands stick to that 60% like glue. But for Omega and Rolex, it's not survival, it's strategy. Omega once admitted outsourcing, then quietly walked it back. That's not brand consistency, it's stainless steel gaslighting. Rolex, of course, said nothing, just quietly bought up its suppliers and locked down production. No drama, just domination. The only thing Rolex trusts more than steel? Control. Instead of marketing fluff, Rolex drops its factory locations like Swiss flex points, Geneva, Bienne, Plan-les-Ouates, Cherbourg. No slogans, just coordinates. Some, like H. Moser and Psy, ditched the label entirely in protest. If the badge means everything, it kind of ends up meaning nothing. That's the core issue. Chinese factories are only causing waves because brands left too much unsaid. And Omega? Still trying to be transparent, and not. It's the horological version of saying nothing's wrong while slamming every drawer in the kitchen. Quick pit stop. Subscribe to Opulent Oasis for more sharp takes and watch world chaos. Alright, back to the good stuff. Tariffs, trade wars, and the luxury watch fallout. Swiss-made used to mean craftsmanship, pride, and probably a guy named Jean-Pierre hand-polishing gears in the Alps. These days, it mostly means 60% of the price tag comes from Switzerland, and the rest comes from wherever the Wi-Fi is cheap, and nobody's asking too many questions. Things got noisy when Chinese factories popped up on TikTok, flexing that they can build look-alike luxury watches for lunch money. And they kind of can. The rules say 40% of the value can come from outside Switzerland. Basically, it's not so much a guarantee. It's a group project graded on a curve. China's no slouch either. This is the same place that cranks out microchips, Mars rovers, and probably your ring light. The irony? Switzerland made its name doing knockoffs better than the original. Now it's just trying to keep the crown on. Omega stepped on the rake when buyers noticed China on bracelet order sheets. Totally legal technically. If the Swiss side adds enough fairy dust, design, assembly, R&D, it passes. Think of it as a luxury remix, made elsewhere, mixed in Geneva. Suppliers aren't even shy about it. Some dials are made abroad, then jauged up in Switzerland just enough to qualify. It's like microwaving leftovers and calling it chef's special. Smaller brands hug that 60% rule like a life raft. But Omega and Rolex, they don't need to. So when they do, it's less survival and more margin finessing. Omega once said, "Not everything's Swiss," then turned around and said, "Actually, yes it is, gaslighting, but in brushed steel." Rolex, as usual, said nothing and did everything. No TikTok rebuttals, no panic tweets, just quietly buying up its entire supply chain. Dials, bracelets, cases, movements. If Rolex could own time itself, it probably would. They don't even push the Swiss-made label hard. Instead, they casually drop production site names like they're bragging about vacation homes: Geneva, Bienne, Plan-les-Ouates, Cherbourg. No slogans, just coordinates and confidence. And honestly, Chinese factories only get to stir the pot because Swiss brands left the lid half off. The vagueness does more damage than any knockoff ever could. Meanwhile, Omega's still riding both lanes. One minute, it's all transparency and self-awareness. The next, it's rewriting the story. Like claiming to be honest and mysterious, just pick one already. The Swatch Group's downward spiral. Trying to fix Breguet feels a bit like volunteering to redecorate the Titanic mid-sink. But Stephen Wood still tried. The guy owns 0.5% of Swatch Group and came armed with a manifesto to shake up the board. It went nowhere, because the Hayek family, with just 25% of shares, still controls 44% of the voting power. That's not a board, it's a monarchy. Last year, Swatch Group profits nosedived 75%. The stock dropped 24%. Over the last decade, down 75%. Nick Hayek Jr.'s response: basically, don't like it. There's the door. That's less investor relations, more emotional detachment. Breguet, once toe-to-toe with Patek Philippe, now has sales 10 times smaller. And that's not even the worst of it. Omega's down 20% over 5 years. Longines, down 29%. The group as a whole fell from 1.3 billion Swiss francs profit in 2013 to just over 200 million last year. Still profit, sure, but barely enough to cover the mood swings. And no, family ownership isn't the issue. Richemont and LVMH are both family-controlled and still manage to function like actual companies. LVMH even revived Daniel Roth, who, in a cruel twist of irony, is the same guy who once brought Breguet back to life. Meanwhile, Breguet is just breathing through a straw. Swatch has the portfolio, the money, the factories, and no debt. What it doesn't have is leadership willing to let go. Reports say Hayek Jr. micromanages like he's got 12 arms. When staff turnover is 6 times the norm, it's not just bad luck. It's a system problem with a name tag. Strategy-wise, they're stuck chasing entry-level sales and betting big on China, just as the premium market and the US start booming. It's like showing up to a black-tie gala in a Swatch Irony t-shirt and wondering why nobody's talking to you. And here's the kicker. The Hayeks reportedly want to take the company private. But since they won't go into debt to do it, the only path left is to tank the share price until it's cheap enough to buy. That's not a strategy. It's corporate slow cooking. Swatch Group is now the most shorted stock in Europe. Investors are betting it'll keep sliding. And honestly, the CEO's don't care energy isn't doing much to prove them wrong. Swatch is stuck in cruise control, China's making Swiss look nervous, and modded Rolexes are either genius or blasphemy, depending on who's yelling in the comments. The watch world's messy right now, and honestly, that's when it's the most fun. So what's the verdict? Is Swiss-made still sacred or just expensive marketing? Should Swatch revive Breguet or give it a quiet funeral with a moon swatch bouquet? And be honest, would anyone actually notice if a hang tag said, "Made in Vietnam"? If you're into horological hot takes and well-dressed chaos, like the video, subscribe to Opulent Oasis and check out the rest of the channel. The rabbit hole only gets deeper from here. And yes, here's your pat on the head. Certified and Swissish. See you next round.